What's up, Taiwan? I'm Jaime Ocon with news and here in Taiwan and around the world. Former Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou has set off on his fourth visit to China since leaving office in 2016, bringing with him a group of Taiwanese students to Fujian province.
要加深对于福建省当地历史与产业发展的了解，也更希望呢能够借由这个面对面的互动啊，能够促进两岸民间呢更密切的交流。
永远不要回来。
Was heckled at the airport by supporters of Taiwan independence. Ma's 8 years in office were marked by a warming of ties with China, but his critics accuse him of being too friendly with Beijing's ruling Communist Party. The Mainland Affairs Council, Taiwan's top government body dealing with China, questioned Ma's decision to attend the Straits Forum, organized by Chinese authorities at a time of heightened cross-strait tensions.
卸任之后，以国家前元首的这个身份去参加海峡论坛，是有一点点跟他当时的对于国人的这样子的一个立场的表态是有一点非常明显的矛盾了，所以我们当然是表达非常的遗憾。
Ma and the group will visit China for 2 weeks. U.S. military officials say that Taiwan needs to be as difficult as possible to invade in order to deter a conflict with Beijing. It comes as China is stepping up its military presence by deploying not one but 2 aircraft carriers in the Indo-Pacific. Somewhere in the Western Pacific, China's Navy is conducting military exercises. And while the scale is not as big as previous drills aimed at Taiwan, they're demonstrating the extent that Beijing's modernized its armed forces. U.S. officials now increasingly concerned about the potential for a war in the region. They say Taiwan is a critical partner and that more needs to be done to deter a conflict.
We've been studying this in the Navy for a long time. We have a global series of war games. We needed to make Taiwan a very difficult target to take.
Those comments come as for the first time, 2 Chinese aircraft carriers were spotted operating in the second island chain, a strategic group of islands that rarely sees this much activity from China until now. Branching outwards into waters where the U.S. and its allies usually operate and challenging their presence.
为什么在这个时候呢会展示出美国的我们叫协调作战能量，或者说它的计划能量？突然山东舰跟辽宁舰2艘航舰战斗群呢，就突然出现在第2岛链的东西两侧，这当然第一个美国必须要有所应对。
While the U.S. will likely increase its own presence with more fighter jets and warships in the region, here in Taiwan, a response might not be as big. Taiwan is already scrambling its fighter jets on a weekly basis to ward off Chinese military aircraft flying close to the country. But analysts say that with limited resources, Taiwan might not be able to keep that up as Beijing continues its modernization.
And as the Navy in China develops more significantly with aircraft carriers and just develops a more blue water Navy, we're going to need to see a change in response to that as well. And I think one of that is possibly not necessarily overreacting to every time these aircraft carriers go. That doesn't mean we ignore them, but not every time an aircraft carrier moves, we have to set off alarm bells.
With China continuing its military expansion, the U.S. and Taiwan will now have to figure out how they will adapt to the changing security environment, one that seems to be changing faster than expected. Fu Huahong and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus. A lawmaker from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party says he'll propose a change to a law that requires Taiwanese who take up Chinese citizenship to still serve in Taiwan's military.
假设已经取得中国的户籍跟国籍，然后又在台湾当兵，那又可以取得这个我们军营内部的资料，说真的会有一些国安的风险。
It comes after Taipei officials revealed they had notified 9 Chinese citizens who used to be Taiwanese of the need to complete compulsory military service here in Taiwan. Despite the national security concerns, the Interior Ministry said the rule is intended to make sure no citizen tries to avoid military service by taking Chinese nationality. The short-lived conflict between India and Pakistan drew close attention from defense analysts. Now, more than a month later, experts are examining Pakistan's use of Chinese weapons during the clashes with India. As part of our Zoom In, Zoom Out series, reporter Adil Barar spoke with Frank O'Donnell, senior research advisor at the Asia-Pacific Leadership Network, to unpack the key lessons.
India and Pakistan recently engaged in a high-intensity conflict with high-technology weapons that only lasted 4 days. What's your initial takeaway about the weapon systems used during this conflict?
What we saw was India and Pakistan deploying what in many ways was their frontline military technologies. With India, for example, we know that Rafales were in the air. This is India's most advanced fighter, which it is also requiring more of from France at the moment. And for Pakistan, we know that it's JF-17 Block 3 and J-10 fighters, both of Chinese origin, were also in the air. And so it gave India and Pakistan a real opportunity to directly test these technologies against each other in combat.
Now, India's military says that they intercepted one of fully intact China-supplied PL-15 air-to-air missiles. There are also reports about China's air defense systems not operating as they were expected to. Does this mean that Chinese weapons failed to perform as they thought?
No air defense system is 100% perfect. And for example, some of the platforms that India use, especially the BrahMos missile, is all but unstoppable. And you have to respond to a BrahMos strike really by retaliation and expecting to be able to successfully stop it. The other element of this, of course, is how India and Pakistan and the sites that were struck are very, very close to each other. And so even at the speed of some projectiles like the BrahMos, it is only in the air for a matter of seconds. So very, very little time for even an air defense system to be able to track this and stop it before it's hit, just because of the adjacent nature of these two parties and of the conflict being fought.
So now there are some counterclaims by Pakistan's media. They're claiming that China supplied J-10 fighter jets were used to shoot down India's Rafale jet. What's your take on Pakistan's claim, and did India really lose one or multiple jets?
What we can, verify is that there were Pakistan, not just Chinese origin drones, but the JF-17 Block 3 fighters and J-10 fighters in the air. And that also at least one PL-15 air-to-air missile was fired because there is debris from that recovered on the Indian side. There have been claims, for example, that a Rafale was, or perhaps more, several Rafales were downed by Pakistan fighters. There is simply not enough evidence in the public domain to confirm that. We do know that a Rafale, at least one Rafale, came down. We know that these fighters were in the air on the Pakistan side. We know that at least one PL-15 missile was fired. But in terms of that, the claim we're often seeing that at least one Rafale being brought down was brought down directly by a Pakistani fighter fielding a PL-15. We just don't have enough public evidence of that.
So I am here in Taiwan, and many people are interested in learning about the performance of Chinese weapons. What are the direct implications for Taiwan during this conflict?
I don't think it really teaches any new lessons, but it reaffirms existing ones. So the focus on standoff precision munitions, whether it's missiles fired from the ground, whether it is missile aircraft and airstrikes, this is what both Taiwan and China expect to be the opening stage of a potential conflict between them, a barrage of precision munition strikes. And so China now has experience, as I say, combat experience of seeing some of these platforms operating against Western competitors with regard to seeing Pakistan use these against India. So while China will have some increased confidence in the technical abilities of these platforms, now that they were tested in real time, that still doesn't change a lot in terms of broader China-Taiwan Strait issues.
That was Frank O'Donnell from Asia Pacific Leadership Network. To watch the full episode, you can visit TaiwanPlus.com or go to our YouTube channel and search for Zoom In, Zoom Out. Lawmakers from the opposition Taiwan People's Party say they're tabling a constitutional amendment to scrap the Control Yuan, Taiwan's government watchdog. Under Taiwan's constitution, the Control Yuan is one of the 5 branches of government intended to censor failing government officials and investigate wrongdoing. But its members are nominated by the executive, leading to accusations it isn't independent enough for the task. The TPP says it has already secured enough votes to clear the first hurdle, but still faces a long journey to successfully change the constitution, including a national referendum. A couple living in a rural part of northeastern Taiwan has won renown for their dessert store, where they serve creative treats all made using ingredients sourced from local farmers. Chelsea Wu has the story.
8 years ago, Chen Zuyong and Yo Ya-chun traded city living for the slower pace of life in the countryside of Yilan in northeastern Taiwan. They opened a cozy dessert shop filled with cakes and the scent of tea leaves. But beyond the sweets, there's a purpose.
我们一直会去找在地的产品啊，不管是农产品或者是一些其他的原物料，我们觉得点子创意够得上的，我们就会去采用它，去来试试看这样。
The couple roam around the area on their days off to meet with small farmers who share their values, aiming to blend creativity and local ingredients into everything they serve.
我发现他们夫妻俩很用心，而且他们会想要选用我们在地小农的食材。我们的生产的东西要想办法把它卖出去的话，也是一个瓶颈。然后他们会想要用我们在地小农的米啊，或者是茶叶来做一些，把它做成创新，让米不只是吃饭而已。
To chase their dream, Chen and his then girlfriend, now wife Yo, even went all the way to Australia, working and saving every dollar for their future shop. But plans don't always unfold as expected. By the time they returned to Taiwan in 2016, the Australian dollar had dropped, cutting into their savings. Still, they pushed forward. The shop opened in 2017, but business was slow and the pressure was heavy.
那时候的想象觉得开一间咖啡店很舒服，然后很赚钱。但后来实际上开了咖啡店之后才发现，开咖啡店不是这么一回事。一开始的时候，其实我们有时候一天只有卖1杯咖啡，然后我们夫妻两个要坐在店里面装客人，然后当然也有一部分比较辛苦的地方，比较负面的是，我们那时候刚开店的时候，其实遇到蛮多酸言酸语，对，但我觉得这都是日后的养分啊。
After surviving the tough times, they opened a second shop in 2018, and the desserts began gaining recognition. Their kumquat cheesecake and black tea rice chiffon cake were named among Yilan's top 10 local delicacies in 2020 and 2023.
我们这家店是我们2个一起打造起来的，然后现在也已经8年了，然后就觉得，应该是还可以继续下去，然后就是想要再做一些更多事情，例如支持我们在地小农啊，或是在找一些当地宜兰特色，然后因为我觉得我们真的很爱宜兰嘛，所以就想说看可不可以多帮宜兰做一些事情啊。
8 years on, the couple has grown from young returnees to established locals. They've not only built their dessert shop, but also a family, crafting a richer and more meaningful life than they ever expected in this rural part of Taiwan. Luffy Li and Chelsea Wu for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we'll leave you today with these ceramics made by Picasso that are going to be auctioned on June 19th in Geneva. I'm Jaime Ocon. Take care. We'll see you next time.